First test ride on the KuKirin C1 Pro. We are on gear 3. Let's see what top speed we can get up to. I only fully charged the electric scooter. Let's just see. Top speed 46 kilometers an hour. Okay, so when you do actually assemble the C1 Pro, it is pretty straightforward. The only thing that I would say is you must make sure your handlebars and your wheel are aligned perfect. Everything is stored in the compartment on the back, which is really handy to see. Now there is a tip that I will definitely give you in a minute, but when it comes to the front wheel, make sure that the spacers are aligned correctly. This will take you a few minutes, and it's a good idea to actually put the scooter up on a small stool to make life that little bit more easier. Again, double check everything is tight. Now when it comes to assembling the actual handlebar area, I would say that the middle bolt that's actually supplied, that I will show you now in a second, does not have blue Loctite on this, and after my first ride it did actually come loose. So put some blue Loctite on that, screw it down, make sure everything is aligned, and wait 24 hours and you should not have a problem after that. Okay, let's talk about a few things that you really should know if you actually plan on getting the C1 Pro. First off as well, huge shout out to KuKirin for sending me this brand new C1 model for review purposes. And by the way, this is linked below to have a look at its current prices. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Now, as far as portability goes, this weighs just over the 30 kilo mark, and I'll talk about why that is in a few minutes. But it's really important to note that on this model, you can, of course, you can remove your seat if you want. Just only the seat post you can only remove, and nothing else. Another thing to note as well, you can fold your handlebars, you know, so it's quite easy for storage. Claps the seat down a little bit more. Let me just show you. Claps the seat down, and it's kind of small in height. You cannot fold this in half. So for that reason alone, I think the portability it's okay. You know, it's not too bad, but do definitely keep in mind the weight. And there is a good few grab points, you know, so it's not that too bad to actually lift. The design of the electric scooter is actually done really well. The frame seems sturdy enough. The battery compartment, which is actually right here, you can see these kind of grills here, and the frame wraps around the battery compartment, which is actually really good for protection, which is not on a lot of electric scooters except the likes of the Nami scooters that have good protection, and it actually looks kind of nice. You know, it looks a little bit different. Of course as well, you have this actually nice kind of compartment here where my gloves are at the moment, and I have just the manuals in there and a nice padded area. The good thing is you don't actually need to assemble this storage compartment. It actually comes pre-assembled, and then to lock the scooter you actually just put that down, it locks automatically, and you pop your key out. So it's really good, and this is actually quite nice soft material as well. So yeah, very good. From the 500 watt motor that's actually on the back, surprisingly enough, there's actually a good bit of torque coming from that motor, and it does say you can get up like 15-degree hills, which I think is kind of actually accurate, to be completely honest. You have the speed there, which is 45 kilometers an hour on this. You have good torque from that actual motor. The brakes are very good, but one of the best, I mean the best selling points actually about that C1 Pro right behind me is that it has a 48 volt 25 amp hour battery, which means you can actually get up to 100 kilometers range on a full charge from this C1 Pro. That is very impressive. Normally with 48 volt batteries you kind of get like 16 amp hour, 18 amp hour, kind of somewhere in between there. And for that reason, I think that's actually one of the key selling points of the C1 Pro. Now as well, from a safety aspect, the handlebars on this are actually quite wide, and they have a nice curvature kind of in the middle. They give you stability at them higher speeds. But like anything, like myself, always wear a helmet no matter what speeds you are doing. As well, you actually have 4 LEDs, and these are actually really good lights. I like these on the KuKirin models. They're probably one of the better lights out there. They're even better than the Xiaomi electric scooters. Of course, as well, you have your indicators on the back here. You have left, right. You also have, of course, the braking ability aspect of it. One quick thing to point out is that the cruise control on this actually kicks in quite fast. So I'm gonna have to see if it's possible to actually disable that. It's not something I like, to be completely honest. But one of the good things as well is that this actually comes with a 3 amp hour charger. From completely flat, it can take 8 to 12 hours with that 3 amp charger. That can give you distances of up to 100 kilometers. Now that is very impressive. It's probably the biggest battery from this style of electric scooter, and I have reviewed a good few scooters in the past that have kind of the same frame, seat and everything else, but of course you get a few extra features on this. Bigger battery, storage compartment in the back, nice grippy pneumatic tires. Now it is IP54 rated, and if you live in a country where it rains a lot, like myself, you know, I would be just a bit careful taking this out in the rain. And if you do get caught in the rain, definitely when you go home, wipe down the electric scooter with a good cloth to get it nice and dry. I guess the main point you would be focusing on would be kind of this area here, where the, you know, battery compartment is, where your charging port is, and even if you can see in there, the entry points for the cables are actually sealed very, very well, which is actually very nice to see. So of course, if rain goes down, it would have a hard time getting into the battery compartment, and that is the most important thing. The comfort on this electric scooter, it's actually not bad. I mean, you have just standard suspension at the front, and you have a nice seat at the back. The deck area on it is actually quite wide. You would have no problem fitting if you had size 10 feet, both feet on this as you are riding. So it is actually very comfortable, and it does help as well that you actually have 14-inch pneumatic tires on this electric scooter. But do keep in mind, this scooter ain't for everyone, and I'm going to tell you why now in a minute. But let's talk about the value. Okay, the current price of the C1 Pro right now, as I'm videoing this, is actually around €800, which is actually on a sales price as well. And I think for the overall spec of the actual electric scooter that you get, and the 48 volt 25 amp hour really large battery on this, and of course you have the speed, you have the kind of general comfort, nice storage compartment on the back, it's actually quite decent. I think it is actually at the right price point. I think if it was something like over €1,000, I definitely don't think it'd be worth the value, but it has the good torque and no really complaints there, except for maybe 1 or 2 things. Now if you again live in a rainy country, I reviewed the KuKirin M3 electric scooter. It doesn't have a seat, and that is IPX7 rated, and it has kind of basically similar specs to this. So if you want to watch that, that's going to be linked at the end of this video. But please keep in mind, who is this for? Well, it's for somebody who needs a seated electric scooter. It really is. And the reason why I say that is because even though the handlebars do actually extend on this electric scooter, they only extend so much. So let me show you. So we're at kind of the height that I find comfortable when it's seated. So if I extend these all the way, which is actually around here, and let's say, you know, you just remove the seat post altogether, which is just this part, and if you're standing, you can see it's way too risky because it's too low and you will get wobbles. So it's definitely only for seated riders. But the best thing, Of course, always make sure your clamps are right. But the best thing about Sita's electric scooters is they're very good for long distances. Now, I had the M4 Pro, the KuKirin M4 Pro in the past, and I had a couple of 1,000 kilometers in that electric scooter, and it had the seat because I was riding 30 kilometers every day, round trip, going to work 5 days per week, sometimes 6 days per week, depending on the situation. And that's where a seat would actually come in handy. So you do have to keep that in mind. I think as well, if you live in an area where there's a few hills, you actually wouldn't really have a problem. You know, this scooter wouldn't have a problem going up a few hills here and there. It has the long distances and it has the speed. It's actually a great electric scooter at a great price. So of course, give this video a like, it does support the channel. And if you want to see those M3 videos, click on the screen right now, and it actually covers all of the KuKirin products that I actually have reviewed in total to date. So go and have a look at that. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.